today, first topic I would like to discuss is on Afghanistan only, India and Afghanistan a bit, so that whatever developments are there, some updation is required. Then, as of today, as we know, Taliban has captured power. That is the, the big news in the whole thing. Yeah. So, as I told you, 15th of August, 2021, your previous assessment that Taliban will not be able to capture Afghanistan before 2022. So this is what in the discussion in India and Afghanistan, the general assessment at that time was that Taliban may not be able to capture power immediately, but as you know, things have, it has surprised everybody. All assessments went terribly wrong. Even the US, they did not expect that Taliban will capture power with that speed. Okay, and we expected. भाई इसका वो sound क्या है इधर पता करो ना क्या कहाँ से sound जा रहे हैं उनको. Okay, so it is not expected that Taliban will be able to capture power that fast, considering the fact that there were 3 to 4 lakh Afghan soldiers. 3 to 4 lakh. And the Taliban soldiers at the best, there would have been around 75,000. Taliban, they were around 75,000. And the Afghan soldiers were much more equipped, more weapons were there, helicopters were there, vehicles were there, guns were there, missiles were there with them. But the Afghan soldiers could not fight it out. So that is what surprised everybody. How come Taliban managed to defeat that fast? See, there are many reasons for that. We will come to that. So, first of all, Taliban, captured, power. That is the, the bottom line. And in 1990s, if you look in 1996, for the first time when Taliban captured power, they ruled till 2001. In 2001, they were defeated by the US-led forces after the Osama bin Laden's attack in US. Okay. So if you look at a brief history of just 1 or 2 lines, if I have to say, see, till 1919, UK ruled, or UK finally withdrew from Afghanistan in 1919. That is the first place from where UK had to withdraw, or rather, it is the peak of the United Kingdom, the British ascendancy, and in that itself UK had to. So between 1919 to 1978, okay, 1919 to 1978, it was largely, there is no specific ruler, we can say. The kings, there was an Afghan king, and kings were there, but warlords, and as well as the, something called what you call, Assembly of Elders. Okay, an Assembly of Elders, or called Loya Jirga. They had some sort of control, Loya Jirga. It is an assembly of tribal chiefs, we can say. They had some sort of an association. They were ruling. In 1978 to 1990, Soviet Union, Soviet forces occupied Afghanistan, and they had to withdraw in 1990. And the Soviet-backed government which was there at that time. So finally, Soviet Union was forced to withdraw because they were opposed by the Mujahidins. Mujahidins were the opponents, the defenders of religion. They were supported by Pakistan and the USA at that time because of their ideological war against communist powers. Okay, Mujahidins defeated them. Finally, Soviet Union withdrew. In 1992, the Dr. Najibullah government fell. Dr. Najibullah was in power, the Soviet-backed leader. Even though Soviet Union withdrew in 1990, his government managed to continue another 2 years, and he finally lost power in 1992. Dr. Najibullah government fell in 1992. And from 92 to 96, Okay, lot of chaos, 1992 to 96, Mujahidins controlled. And from between 1994 to 1996, it was occupied by, a couple of leaders. One was, Burhanuddin Rabbani. Rabbani was the president. Then Ahmad Shah Massoud. Was the Home Minister or Interior Minister. Okay. Then there is another one, Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. He was the Prime Minister. General Dostam. He was the Defense Minister. See, I am telling all these names because now it is still relevant. Okay. So, these four were ruling, or rather, in fact, in Afghanistan, major, tribal communities. There are four different big communities there. So, one was the major communities Pashtun. Pashtuns are 39%. Then Tajikistan, 25%. Hazara, 19%. Uzbek, maybe around 6%. These are the four major communities in Afghanistan. Pashtuns are, the Taliban is from Pashtun. Okay, the Taliban, the fellows are mainly from the Pashtun community. They are living along Pakistan-Afghanistan border. Okay, that is that region, the southern Afghanistan. Tajiks are near Tajikistan. Hazara, 19%, they are the central portion of Afghanistan, but they are the low caste, or rather the outcast, or they are mainly the Shia community, Shia Muslims. They are not treated as equals in Afghanistan. And Uzbeks, see, among the Mujahidins, the main fighters were mainly from these Tajiks. Okay, when Mujahidins were fighting, Mujahidins mean defenders of religion, and most of the defenders or most of the fighters were Tajiks. That is why in 1994 I said, when a coalition government type came up, this Rabbani was a Tajik. Ahmad Shah Massoud was a Tajik. And in fact, Ahmad Shah Massoud was the brain behind the whole thing. Rabbani, both of them died now because Massoud was killed in a suicide bombing, and even Rabbani was also killed by Taliban in a suicide bombing only. Now, Gulbuddin Hekmatyar is still alive. He is a Pashtun. Now, after Taliban captured power now, Hekmatyar is still in news now. Now, once again, Hekmatyar is in news, and Taliban is negotiating or rather discussing with Hekmatyar regarding a transition government. Okay, he is in negotiation right now. General Dostam is an Uzbek. He was there right from the beginning. He was the defense minister. Even he was the defense minister during the Najibullah government's time also. He was an Uzbek. Even now he is alive. But of course, out of power right now. So, these people were ruling between 94 to 96. During this time, we were very close to India. In fact, they were supported by India, Russia, all of them supported. And there was some support was there during this phase. India had a role. Between 96 to 2001, Taliban ruled, Taliban captured power. Taliban is a militia or a group of, these were students of madrasas. Madrasa students, mainly Pashtuns, entered Pakistan during the communist rule. Okay. So, who are these Talibanis? Talibanis never fought with Soviet Union. Talibanis were not part of Mujahidins. okay, who fought against the Soviet Union. That ideological wartime, Taliban was not there. Taliban was created only in 1994 maybe. Okay, they were created maybe in 1994 and they captured power within 2 years they could capture power. They were Pashtun students or Pashtun origin people who came to Pakistan to study in the madrasas, the religious studies. They were indoctrinated, they were taught, they were indoctrinated to become hardcore fighters. And they became fighters and they fought and captured power and they implemented, they were very brutal. And, they were quite, I will say, even basic human rights were not allowed during the Taliban rule. No basic human rights. And they were not allowed, women were not allowed to work. Okay. So in Pashtun, the word Taliban means students only. Very good. Okay. In Pashtun, the word Taliban itself is students only. Okay. Fine. And women were not allowed to work. Girls were not allowed to go to school. And women could not venture out of their homes without a male companion. They could not walk out in public without a male companion with them. That was the rule insisted by Taliban during that time. And men had to grow their beard. Even if it is not there, you have to find a beard then. Okay. So, but people of this area have plenty of beards, there is no problem. Then amputation, flogging, okay, public execution of people, they were very common. They used to chop off their hands of the culprits. Okay, if the Taliban catch somebody for some crime or something which is not according to their rule, then they may amputate them, flogging them, stoning them. All these things they used to do. And Kabul's main football stadium was converted into a public place for, punishing people or a public execution ground. They used to publicly execute people who are, according to them, who has done the heinous crimes. Music, TV, cinema, photography, painting, even kite flying were banned. Just imagine what kind of society is that. Music, cinema, then TV, photography, painting, even kite flying. It is banned during the Taliban time. And you might have heard about the famous Bamiyan. Have you heard of this Bamiyan? Have you ever heard of Bamiyan? This was a place. Okay, Bamiyan is a place, 6th century in a Buddhist, rock. Buddha statues were, carved in stone, okay, on rocks. Buddha statues carved on the rocks. This Buddhist statues which were carved in the hillside on rocks, they completely destroyed it during the Taliban time. They used, modern ammunitions to destroy that carvings from the side of the rocks. Okay, and they introduced what you call the Shariat law. Shariat law. Yeah, the Buddha statues were completely destroyed. Then they introduced the Shariat law, means a very, orthodox interpretation of Islamic teachings. And there is no space for any, liberal thinking in the Taliban rule. So that was during 1996 to 2001. Then came the WTC, the World Trade Center attack. And during this Taliban rule, they also gave asylum. They gave some free space to Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden. See, what powers supported Taliban to rise to power? Pakistan and indirectly USA. USA indirectly, but directly Pakistan. Pakistan only trained them. Because why Pakistan supported? Because, during the Mujahideen time, so between 1978 to 1990, these Mujahideens were supported by Pakistan only. But once the communist government ended in 1992, Pakistan expected the Mujahideens to listen to Pakistan. Because suppose I support you, and you become something, and tomorrow what is my expectation? My expectation is you will listen to me. But these Mujahideen were not willing to listen to Pakistan also. So when Pakistan realized that these fellows are not listening to, the Mujahideens are not listening to Pakistan, Pakistan decided to create a new force called Taliban. So Pakistan is single-handedly responsible for the creation of Taliban, and of course USA indirectly supported at that time. USA might not have directly supported. Indirect support from US and direct support from Pakistan created Taliban. But Osama bin Laden, please understand, Osama bin Laden is not a Talibani fellow. Please don't confuse. Okay, Osama bin Laden, he's had another organization called Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is a global terrorist organization. Their main aim is to fight against all infidels or fight against all injustice. They want to fight against all enemies of Islam. That is the Osama bin Laden's philosophy. Taliban's philosophy is they want to capture power in Afghanistan because they are Afghani people. They want to capture and they want to have a Puritan form of religion to be implemented. So Taliban wants power and they want to implement Shariat law. The most orthodox interpretation of religion, they want to implement. That is their only aim. They don't have any global aims. But Osama bin Laden had a global aim. They want to fight against all the enemies of Islam. That is how Osama bin Laden was given asylum in Afghanistan during this time. He was already a wanted criminal and he was given asylum in Afghanistan between 1996 to 2001. Once the WTC, the World Trade Organization, the center was attacked, WTC was attacked, the US realized that Osama is behind the action. So US asked Taliban to hand over Osama bin Laden to USA. Taliban said, let us discuss the matter. But US said nothing, no discussion, nothing. I want it immediate or else you face the war. That was the situation. Then US did not directly fight the war in Afghanistan. Please note, in the 2001 scenario, before throwing out Taliban, US did not directly fight. US supported the Northern Alliance. US supported the Northern Alliance. Northern Alliance was by these Tajiks, mainly by Tajiks and Uzbeks. So, Northern Alliance were at that time led by this Rabbani, Masood, Dostum, etc. So, those who were in power between 94 to 96, I said, please remember, I said in 94 to 96, those who were in power, they actually retreated. When Taliban came to power, captured power in 1996, this Rabbani, Masood, even Dostum, all of them went to the northern side, to the Panjshir Valley. Okay, so they got established in Panjshir Valley. See, this is the location of the Pakistan and Afghanistan, okay, and this is where the Pashtuns, this is the location of Pashtuns, including Pakistan. Pakistan also has Pashtuns. Then this is the Hazara region. Tajiks, there are in two places, here also, Tajiks. Okay, this is near Tajikistan, Tajik. Then Uzbekistan, near Uzbekistan, Uzbeks. So this is the location of these tribal communities, four major tribal communities we are talking. See, officially speaking, see now our Jammu and Kashmir, we are claiming this is our boundary of Jammu and Kashmir. I hope you know that. Claim तो बहुत है हमारा, लेकिन है नहीं हमारे पास, है ना? Our line of control is only this, line of LAC, line of actual control. Okay. Sorry, line of control. Line of control is this, line of actual control is with China. Okay. Now, even though we claim this portion, this northern territory as our territory, but it is not with us. So, this portion of Afghanistan which is touching India, technically, not actually, Actually, it is not, that territory is not with us. We are claiming that territory. This is called the Wakhan Corridor. Wakhan Corridor. So this small portion, which is supposed to touch Indian border by Afghanistan, is called Wakhan Corridor. Are you clear? And you see, this is what we claim as India, but actually it is not there. I have already shown the line of control is far away. So we don't have any direct link to Afghanistan right now. Earlier it used to be, at least British Indian time, the claim was there, but after 1947, after the first war, or rather the Kashmir war, we did not get this part. Okay. So anyway, so that is one aspect of it. Now just one more thing, let me just remind you. See, near Tajikistan, this region, okay, this is the region far north of Kabul. This is what is known as the Panjshir Valley. Okay. Now, even today, Panjshir Valley is not in the hands of Taliban, even now. Even though Taliban captured Kabul, Panjshir Valley is not with the hands of Taliban even now. So, this is one place near Tajikistan which the Taliban is not able to capture even now, because this Northern Alliance, or rather the former Northern Alliance, or the Tajiks and Uzbeks who were, see, at that time the Northern Alliance was much more stronger. They even had the other cities also, including Mazar-e-Sharif. You can see Mazar-e-Sharif written here. Mazar-e-Sharif. Mazar-e-Sharif is a major city of the north, and Panjshir Valley, all were in the hands of the Northern Alliance at that time. But anyway, right now situation is very fluid, let us not see. So, between 2001, now, so in 2001, these Northern Alliance fellows directly fought against Taliban and defeated Taliban in 2001. But Northern Alliance were supported by US, Russia, everybody supported, including India. All of us supported Northern Alliance. We gave them arms and ammunition. Northern Alliance defeated Taliban in 2001. But supported by the rest of the global forces, including US, Russia, India, Iran, all of us supported. It's a massive support to them. So no foreign troop, no American troop fought against Taliban directly to defeat Taliban. Northern Alliance fighters defeated. Now between 2001 and 2021, just see, 20 years, US supported rule in Afghanistan, and in 2001, in 2002 itself, Hamid Karzai, an US-backed leader, Hamid Karzai, sorry, Karzai, Hamid Karzai was made the president of Afghanistan, a US-backed leader. He was a Pashtun, because they wanted a balance in community, that is, a Pashtun was made the president because he is the majority community. Okay, so Hamid Karzai, a Pashtun, and the Tajiks. So meantime, by this time, Ahmad Shah Massoud was the real leader, but unfortunately Massoud was killed by Taliban before. So Massoud's 3 lieutenants were there, very strong fellows. One is Abdullah, same person. Okay, his name is Abdullah, and he is still there. He was the CEO of Afghanistan till recently in the outgoing government. Abdullah is a very powerful leader even today. He is a Tajik. Then he had Yusuf Kanuni and Muhammad Fahim. These 3 were the prominent leaders who fought against Taliban in 2001. They were all together, but Hamid Karzai was made the president, And he fought 2 elections also. US conducted elections in 2004 and 2009. So till 2014, Hamid Karzai was the president. The US backed till, so 2002 to 2014, Karzai. US backed, and he was a very powerful leader. So today, according to sources, Taliban is negotiating for a transition government after capturing it. 3 leaders are in negotiation with Taliban right now. Who are the 3? One is this Karzai, Hamid Karzai. Number 2, Abdullah Abdullah. Okay, number 2, Abdullah Abdullah. And number 3, that Hekmatyar. I told in 1994, ab dekho, I said this man, Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. He was a Pashtun. He was the prime minister at that time. He left after Taliban captured power in 96. After that, he was never in the scene. But now, he is back in scene. After 1996, after almost 25 years, Bhai Sahib is again in action. Okay. Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. So, Taliban is negotiating with these 3 right now for an interim government, a transition government and all. Okay. So, anyway, so that is why I wanted to tell. So, in 2014, after Karzai completed 2 terms, the Afghanistan constitution says a person can have only 2 terms as president. I mean, the democratic constitution which they had. So, in 14, another US-backed leader, that is Ashraf Ghani. Ashraf Ghani became the president. He got re-elected also, but the elections were all disputed. Finally, on 15th of August, 2021, Ashraf Ghani, along with his Parivar and the main fellows in the government, took a flight to UAE. So, they fled Afghanistan. And Taliban entered the presidential palace, and Taliban captured the presidential palace. That is the situation as far as Afghanistan is concerned right now. Okay. So, Ashraf Ghani and most of his ministers have fled to UAE. So, they are in UAE right now, and they have no say right now. And so, the leader, the Taliban leader who is in negotiation, his name is Amir Khan Muttaqi. Muttaqi. He was a former information minister of Taliban. When Taliban was in power, he was the information minister. He is currently holding talks with all these people, Karzai, Abdullah Abdullah, and then Hekmatyar. Okay. And Taliban would like to call Afghanistan as what? What is the new name they are suggesting? It's not Republic of Afghanistan. Till now it is Republic of Afghanistan. What is that Taliban want to call? Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Okay. Islamic Emirate. And so there will be an emir. See, republic means an elected head will be the leader. Republic means an elected person will be the leader of that country. Republic of India. President of India. An elected leader is the #1 citizen of the country. That is the meaning of republic. But Afghanistan says, or Taliban says, we are not going to believe in this democracy business. No democracy. It is an Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. That's what they want to say. See, Hazara community is in greater danger. Why? Hazara community is Shia Muslims. Okay. Hazara, there are Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims. And among the sectorial divide among the Islamic community, the Sunnis are not considering themselves to be, the Sunni Muslims don't consider Shias as true Muslims also. Why? Because they are not following. See, they both believe in Prophet Muhammad, but what is the difference between Shia and Sunni? Any idea? What is the difference between Shia and Sunni? In very simple layman's language, I am not getting into the details. One line difference if you have to say. What is that? Prophet, both agree on prophet. Succession. Who is the successor of prophet? Okay. Now, Shia community believe that the successor should be in the bloodline of prophet. Okay. So, in a Shia community believe that his son Ali should have been the successor. But in the in the Sunni Muslims, that succession issue. Okay. So, that is where the difference of opinion, and because of that, I hope I said it correctly, but now I myself got it out. Okay. So, let me just clarify, because it's very sensitive also. In fact, 93.5% of the world Muslims are Sunnis, and just 6.5% of the Muslims in the world are Shia Muslims. Okay. And as it said, one second, the origin of separation traced back to the dispute over the succession of the Islamic Prophet Muhammad as the Caliph. After the death of Prophet Muhammad, some believed that Muhammad's first successor should be Abu Bakr, and a group of Muslims who would come to be known as Shias later on believed a successor should have been Ali. Okay, Abu Bakr versus, so Sunni Muslims wanted. So, it is related to the succession war. So, now what is happening is, this Talibanis are Sunni Muslims and hardcore, orthodox believers of the Shariat law and things like that. So, yeah, Ali was the son-in-law. Ali was the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad. So, since Taliban, they believe in the purest form of the religion and the most orthodox ones, anyone who is disregarding, who is doubting the hierarchy of the Islamic tradition right now will be declared as an anti-Muslim. So, for them even Shias are anti-Muslim for Taliban. So, that is why the problem for Hazaras. See, that is why the problem for Hazaras, successor of the Muhammad is the issue, I said. So, but please understand, the problem is Hazara community is in danger because they are mainly Shia community and they can be mercilessly persecuted by our Taliban in the given chance, right? So, now, if the emirate, Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, if it is to be created, accordingly, the Taliban leader, Mullah Hibatullah Akhundzada, okay, Akhundzada. Hazaras also look different than other tribes, both in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. Okay, that is also correct. They are, which racially also slight difference is there. So, that is why. Anyway, so, Hazaras are persecuted in both Afghanistan and Pakistan. So, this Mullah Hibatullah Akhundzada is likely to be declared as the Emir of Afghanistan in future. Taliban has said that they will, respect, foreign diplomats. Taliban has already said that they will respect the women's rights. They are all saying that, but in practice they may not be doing. But they are at least saying that. Taliban also said that they will not target anyone who worked with the American forces during the American stay in Afghanistan for the last 20 years. They are saying all these things. Media houses are asked. They said that the women journalists can continue in the media houses. That's what they are claiming. So, but Taliban has already set up checkpoints. They started house-to-house search and all those things. They have already started. So we don't know, but even though Taliban might be a bit look a bit moderate publicly, there is no evidence to suggest that they have changed. Okay, there is no evidence. Yeah, so Mullah Hibatullah is a Sunni, definitely. See, Hazaras have no role. Hazaras are second class. Taliban fellows will be capturing. Okay, so they are Sunni Muslims. So the almost 93.5% of world Muslim population are Sunni Muslims. Just 6.5 are Shia. Which country has maximum Shia population? Iran. Then Iraq. Even in India we have Shia communities. Okay. Yemen. We have in West Asia, but mainly in Iran and Iraq. With less people, how did they capture? Because even with less people, if they are fighting, and if more people are not fighting, who will win? The fighters will win. That's what exactly happened. Anyway, so there was an agreement between Taliban and US in February 2020. Please don't forget. If you look at the events which led to the final defeat of the Ghani government, there was an agreement between Taliban and USA in February 2020. Okay. And in that, the US, the Trump administration was there at that time. Trump talked about withdrawing by May 1st, 2021. The complete US withdrawal was agreed by May 1st, 2021. And in return, Taliban agreed to give up violence. So that is only on paper. Nothing actually happened. So, but when our Joe Biden came to power, he have declared that by September 1st, Joe Biden claimed that he will withdraw by September 1st, 2021. But even before they completely withdrew, by August 15 itself, the whole thing collapsed. And I'll come to that reason for collapse a bit more elaborately. Pakistan, who supported Taliban all through, even the last 20 years, naturally Pakistan is the happiest when the Ghani government fell, and Pakistan declared that Afghanistan broke the shackles of slavery. This was a response by Imran Khan. Imran Khan said Pakistan could manage to break the shackles of slavery. China, they are already in negotiations with the Taliban, and their only aim is Taliban should not support the separatism in the Chinese territories, okay, especially in the Uyghur province. China has two things. One, Taliban should not support separatism in Uyghur province of China, number one. Number two, China with the Taliban should not disturb the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. No disturbance. And number three, Taliban should allow China to exploit the mineral resources of Afghanistan. Should allow China to exploit mineral resources in Afghanistan. And of course, China wanted their number one enemy US to get defeated and be thrown out, and of course China wanted to see the back of USA. Obviously, they did not want USA to be there. So Chinese aim is that, and China is happy, and Taliban. Okay, Mullah Baradar. See, there are many leaders of Taliban. Taliban is not a single leader. Please understand that. Okay, the Taliban is not a coherent unit. There are many factions, but we are talking about some of the bigger factions right now, including Mullah Baradar is another leader. So we don't know who will emerge finally on the top. Okay, now there will be a lot of succession fight also in Taliban. So Chinese interest, there are China's foreign interests. Taliban should not support any separatism in Uyghur province of China, the western province of China. China-Pakistan economic corridor, there should not be any disturbance. That is their number 2 demand. Number 3, they should be allowed to exploit the mineral resources in Afghanistan, because it's a virgin territory for them, and they would like to see that the US is out of scene, because their number 1 enemy is that. Pakistan, for Pakistan, number 1 is the Pakistan always feels that this, Afghanistan is their backyard or strategic rear. Strategic rear base, and it is their diplomatic space. Pakistan always feels that Afghanistan is their diplomatic space. And in this space, for Pakistan, India has no role. There should be no role for India. Pakistan always wants to ensure that there is no role for India in Afghanistan. And Pakistan always want, Pakistan with Afghanistan, Pakistan feel they are big enough to compete with India. Otherwise, they always feel, thoda sa handicapped. That is why Pakistan's main concern is India should not be there, and they need to have full control over Afghanistan. That is what exactly they want. Even Russia, even when you look at Russia, Russia has already declared that they are in negotiation. Okay, Russia has said that, and they are already in negotiation with Taliban. They are already in negotiation with Taliban, and these talks are positive and constructive. Russia said the talks which are going on right now are positive and constructive. So Russia is having a different. So again, for Russia also, they don't want the US to be there. So main concern is US should be out. And Russia also has concern that the Taliban should not promote extremism in Russia. And their main concern is Russia should be out. So that is also there. So as far as Russia is concerned, they are in a negotiation with Taliban, and they are saying that they are claiming that the negotiations are positive and constructive. Main concern is US should be out. Okay. So Taliban should not promote extremism in Russian territories. If Taliban agree on that, Russia has no problem if Taliban is ruling. That's the point I'm making. Okay, so the issue here is everyone, even Iran, number 1 enemy is US. So even Iran, given an option right now because of their relationship with US, Taliban is okay, even though Iran is a Shia country, Shia, Taliban is Sunni, they cannot have any ideological agreement, but if you have to choose between the 2 enemies for Iran, they will choose Taliban to be their friend rather than US to be their friend right now. So even Iran would like to see. So now what is happening? All those who are surrounding, okay, let us see, all the surrounding countries would like to see the US out of the scene here. One second. So nobody wants to see US to be there. They have antagonized everybody. So we have our Afghanistan. Just see. This is our Afghanistan. Pakistan wants Taliban. Now, even China wants Taliban. Russia is quite okay with Taliban. Iran is okay with Taliban. Okay, all of them want. What is even for Pakistanis, US is not a happy, or rather their relationship with US is not so good right now. So all these countries want Taliban and not US right now. And the only country in the nearby vicinity who will be genuinely interested in the US may be India. So unfortunately, we are left behind, we are left out. And the US will not bother about India too much. So we are left with nobody. And literally, we lost out in the whole game. That is the bottom line, what has happened here right now. Okay. So, is there any government in Afghanistan? We cannot call it as a government because no official government has come to Afghanistan right now. It will take some time before they start saying that. So, Afghanistan also cut off all trade with India. Yes, right now, no trade, nothing. There was a news in short that Afghanistan forces started occupying from the border. Yeah, there could be, because 4 lakh Afghan troops were there. I mean, we will see that why they completely abandoned. But the reason is there is no leadership in the first place. Okay, so we will come to that. So now what I am trying to tell you is 2021 is not 1996. Okay, 2021 is not 1996. What do you mean by that? What was the scenario in which Taliban captured power in 1996 is totally different from what is there in 2021. Okay. Central Asian republics, by and large, they also, their only thing is there should not be any Islamic terrorism being promoted by Taliban into their territory. But otherwise, Central Asian republics are fully dependent on either China or, Russia. So they don't have much independent choice here. Please see these Central Asian republics. Now, for your information, these Central Asian republics, including Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, all these 5 are, landlocked countries. They were erstwhile Soviet republics. 5 of them are there. And now they are fully dependent on either China or Russia for their survival. So they don't have much independent choice here. And but they are not, hardcore Islamists. They were former communist ruled countries. They follow Islam, but very, soft or mild, or I will say, they are not following Orthodox Islam. Okay. So that's the only difference there. Otherwise, they don't have much a different opinion. Their opinion is not that different from that of Russia's or China's right now. Anyway, so 2021 is not 1996, I am repeating, because in 1996, only UAE Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. These three countries only recognized Taliban during their 5-year rule. Okay, just see. Only UAE, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia were the only three countries which recognized Taliban in 1996. Now already these countries are already China has already indicated that they will. Even Russia, Pakistan of course, Iran, all will be recognized, even Central Asian republics. If China and Russia recognize it, definitely all Central Asian republics will recognize Taliban immediately. So 2021 is a different, Taliban is poised to get more international support this time. So we are in a different ball game altogether. That is what. So in 1996, there was stiff resistance. Northern Alliance was very strong. Northern Alliance, very strong. See, in 1996, when Taliban captured power, the rulers, including Rabbani, Masood, they did not go to UAE. They did not take a flight and go to UAE. They withdrew to their northern territory. They withdrew to Panjshir Valley. And they set up an army and resistance from there. They started fighting from there right from 1996. Right now the ruler, Ghani, Ashraf Ghani, वो भाग गया. वो बोला कि मैं shoes पहनने भी भूल गया था बोल के. Okay, he was saying that he could not even change his shoes. You can imagine कितना डरपोक है वो. He is not the fighter. So there is a weak leadership. Had it been Tajiks would have never given up like that. Tajiks are the real fighters. So anyway, so Northern Alliance at that time retreated to Panjshir Valley. They set up the alliance and started fighting. Right now, but everything is not lost. See, now one major leader called Amrullah Saleh. Amrullah Saleh, he was the first vice president under Ashraf Ghani. He was the first vice president of Afghanistan. He is a Tajik. And he was an aide. He was a former aide of Ahmad Shah Massoud. So, Amrullah Saleh has withdrawn to Panjshir Valley. He did not go to UAE. He did not run away. He did not run away from the country. Okay. Amrullah Saleh, the first vice president of the first vice president of Afghanistan, a Tajik, a former aide of Ahmad Shah Massoud of 94-96 time. He has gone. Okay. So, he along with, now this Ahmad Shah Massoud's own son called Ahmad Massoud. So, Amrullah Saleh and Ahmad Massoud, the son of Ahmad Shah Massoud, both of them have said that they will fight. Okay. Now, see, the history of Afghanistan is, these tribes will not allow the domination of another tribe. For example, Tajiks can never tolerate the rule of Pashtuns. And similarly, Pashtuns will never tolerate the rule of Tajiks. So that is the problem. In Afghanistan, no one tribal community is willing to accept the leadership of another tribal community. Okay. So, these are Tajiks. Now they will put up a resistance. Now countries like India, definitely we will be supporting them at some point of time. Once again, they will start growing in strength. So already Amrullah Saleh and as it was mentioned, so right now Northern Alliance is absent, but we cannot tell that Northern Alliance will not emerge again. It will emerge, it may take some time. We need to give them breathing space, because August 15 it happened, suddenly everything happened. Now it's only 1 week. So naturally, it will take some time for the opposition to gather, and they have to strategize. And already this Panjshir Valley is in the hands of the Amarullah Saleh and Ahmad Masood and all. So naturally, and these weapons and everything is there already. 3-4 lakh soldiers were there. So some of them will definitely join this group. So it's a matter of time before they start organizing themselves. So we cannot outrightly reject and say in which direction the opposition will gain strength. Whether they will really fully gain strength and all, we don't know. But definitely the chances are very high. If you look at the history of Afghanistan, these Tajiks are not going to give up that easily. And they will organize and they will easily find support. Okay. Of course, it may not be an all-out support immediately, but definitely they will find support, and it may not be that easy for the Taliban to run over these fellows also. So that is the potential here. So now coming to, as far as India is concerned, a couple of points I would like to say. See, India, during the last 20 years, we have invested around $3 billion in social sector. $3 billion. This is the amount in nowhere else India has invested so much. And for infrastructure. Yeah, that's what Northern Alliance has turned into Resistance 2.0 and have claimed to capture certain parts of Afghanistan. So this will be, and he even Amarullah Saleh has declared himself as the president of Afghanistan from their side. But let us not take that seriously right now. We don't know how exactly it will be happening. We don't know. And UAE, is one country. They were already, and they will not be siding with any of the sides. They will not be showing any special interest to Taliban also. They may not be showing any special interest to our Ghani and also. We cannot say that UAE will be siding with one side or other. So they generally maintain neutrality. So that is how it will be there. So anyway, right now, India has invested $3 billion and we were cribbing and crying. You know what Americans have invested in the last 20 years? Any idea? Rough estimate suggests that, forget about the number of deaths and all, rough estimate suggests that they have invested $1 trillion. 1 trillion means 1,000 billion. Okay. In 20 years, into 50 is equal to 1,000, right? So on an average, Americans have spent $50 billion every year in Afghanistan. We, in 20 years, we spent $3 billion. उसके लिए हम रो रहे, हम बहुत पैसा जगाया, ये है, वो है, okay. Of course, considering Indian standard, $3 billion is big, but Americans have spent more than 1,000 billion or $1 trillion in Afghanistan, plus they lost so many lives. Anyway, so compared to what Americans have invested, nothing. But right now, and India, during the last 20 years, we had our embassy in Kabul. We also had 4 consulates. One at Kandahar, another at Herat in the west, then in Mazar-e-Sharif, and one other at Jalalabad. Okay. Now, minimum is 1 billion, 1 trillion. It may be, some say it is 2 trillion, another, some people say 3 trillion, some say 6 trillion, we don't know. But minimum, not less than 1 trillion. Okay, that is why I am using the term 1 trillion. In various articles, we will talk about various amounts, 2 trillion, 3 trillion, 6 trillion, everything. Some people have suggested also, but minimum is 1 trillion. 1 trillion is also, in the last 20 years, if you are counting, that is, see, what is the total economy of India? What is the total size of the Indian GDP? 2.5 or 2.6 trillion. Uska almost that much amount Americans have spent in Afghanistan. Okay, just like that. So you can imagine how much they have spent. So we have already closed our consulates in Kandahar, in Herat, even in Jalalabad. Now, even Kabul embassy we have closed. We have almost closed almost everything. We had at least 5 centers of India in Afghanistan. And now we have closed almost everything. Jalalabad, Herat, all we have closed. Mazar-e-Sharif was there, but we have literally abandoned. We have come back. Okay. So, first of all, we should understand that in the last 20 years, the way Indians had to vacate, the way we vacated, that clearly shows that we don't have many friends in Taliban. Okay, we don't have many friends in the Taliban group. So we have, we have laid all eggs in one basket. We kept on believing that Taliban will never come back. Evidence were there right from 2004. Taliban started recouping since 2004. There were clear evidence of Taliban bouncing back. So, at that time we did not want to antagonize US. We did not want to. But when US themselves started talking to Taliban, at least that should have been a warning point to India. We were always believing in US. US finally abandoned and went away. They said, "Main thak gaya, main ja raha hu. We have other fights to do." American people, American children cannot shed their lives for Afghanistan. Ye wo, bada bhanda de diya, and they left. Now what happened to India? We are left in the lurch. So when the Taliban bounced back, during that time itself, we should have been talking. It would have been very easy to talk to Taliban at that time. We did not do. At least when USA started talking, we should have been opening our channels also. Okay. So it is a big mistake from our side, absolutely no doubt. When Trump administration was openly talking to Taliban, and when our Prime Minister was so close to Trump, and even he was telling, "Ab ki baar Trump sarkar ye wo," sab kuch bolte gaya, he should have been using that common sense to talk to Taliban also. When Trump is talking, if Trump is our guru, so we should have been understanding that Trump is already talking. And even in 2020, they agreed that we will withdraw. Even then, we did not start talking. So we were a bit late. Okay, we were a bit late. So Trump started talking about that, in fact, right from Obama's time. Please remember, Obama in 2011 itself, he declared that they will withdraw from Afghanistan in 2014. Obama was the first to say that. But somehow, Obama was persuaded not to do that. Trump in 2016 itself said that we will withdraw immediately. We did not listen. Then in 2018, please remember, Moscow, Russia organized a meet or a conference where India was also, even Taliban was invited. Russia invited Taliban. Moscow, it's called a Moscow format of negotiation, and it was, they invited Taliban for talks in the Moscow format. But India, since Taliban is there, India sent only a non-official delegation. India said we are participating very reluctantly and said that a non-official delegation. India managed to send a non-official, 2 former diplomats were sent, retired diplomats were sent, 2 retired diplomats were sent to Moscow, and we said it's a non-official delegation, not an official delegation. Even last year, 2020, September, we joined in September 2020, our Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar he joined the inaugural session of the intra-Afghanistan negotiations. But we never acknowledged, or we did not even say that we are even talking with Taliban. We only indicated that some, in a back channel, we only indicated some back channel negotiations. So, what I am trying to say is, we had a half-hearted, half-embarrassed, ideologically hesitant strategy to outreach to Taliban, okay, and it was not sufficient to take care of the Indian interest. So, the bottom line is, we had a half-hearted, half-hesitant or ideologically hesitant and half-embarrassed outreach to Taliban. Recently, okay, half-hearted, half-embarrassed, ideologically hesitant outreach to Taliban, which is too little and too late to protect the interests of India, which was too little and too late to safeguard the Indian interests. Consulates are, consulate and embassy different. Embassy is the main where the High Commissioner or our Indian envoy will be staying, that is office. Okay. Consulate means it's a branch office type, mainly to facilitate business, Indian interests in Afghanistan. So, for example, an US embassy or Indian embassy in, say, Washington. Then we may have consulates in other cities, in New York also, or US embassy in India. But a US consulate in Mumbai, US consulate in Calcutta, a US consulate in Chennai. Why? Because if anybody wants to travel to US and all, these consulates will issue visa and things like that. Okay. So, normally consulates are for promoting business, tourism, etc. Okay, for other business. Diplomatic mission is in New Delhi. Anything related to diplomacy, it is dealt from the embassy, but all other economic activities like business, trade, travel, visa, all these things will be done with the help of these consulates. Okay, that's the difference between consulate and embassy, right? So, that is the situation. So, our approach to Taliban, I said it already, it is a half-hearted, half-embarrassed, ideologically hesitant, because we were not even willing to tell openly that we are talking to Taliban. हमें लगता था अरे ऐसे कैसे बोलूंगा मैं? It's something like somebody चोरी चुप के going to a brothel. So we were so hesitant to tell that we are even talking to the Taliban. That was the kind of confusion we had. That is number one. Number two thing is, we have invested too much in US. And, we should have been understanding that this is, what is, generally felt is, we are moving too close to US when the US is already on its decline. US is declining. You can see, especially after Trump came to power, the US and control over the world politics have completely declined. Even during the pandemic, the US could not take any step. They could not lead as a, the most powerful country in the world. They should have been leading the fight against the pandemic. They should have been doing some steps, taking some steps, leading. They should have been taking a lead role. They did not do anything. Now, but we are moving closer and closer to US at the expense of Russia, at the expense of China, and we have antagonized China completely. You see, we have moved closer to, we are too close to USA, but in the process, we have antagonized Russia, and we have also antagonized China. Why China has attacked in our Ladakh and all? One of the reasons is they have realized that India is completely on the side of the US. We will not, there was no ambiguity now. See, earlier, till recently, there was a doubt. India was like a swing state. We may swing towards China or we may swing towards US. Some ambiguity was left. But we have completely abandoned that. We have moved too close to US. So, Russia has problems. China has problems. That is why China is investing heavily in Pakistan, the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Russia is indifferent towards India. Mainly because we are moved too close to US. So now, if the Russians did not, if Russians did not invite India for some of the talks, the reason is precisely this. Because they are not feeling that comfortable with India today because of our policies. So, I will generally say, and now the Andhbhakts will disagree, but I would like to say that, there is a, definitely, we could not anticipate this. There is a failure on our part as far as our foreign policy is concerned. Definitely, there is a failure on our part in our approach in the foreign policy. That is why our Subramanian Swamy, he is a critic of Prime Minister within BJP, he said, two people should be asked to go immediately. One is Jaishankar, another is Ajit Doval. He said, our National Security Advisor as well as our Foreign Minister has failed in anticipating all these things. They should have been, if responsibilities are fixed on some people right now, after COVID, if he could remove the health minister and all, after this we should remove a couple of people, that is Jaishankar and Ajit Doval. That is what Subramanian Swamy was saying. Anyway, Subramanian Swamy is an open critic, so we cannot be taking it. But definitely, there is a failure on the part of the foreign minister. At least we can say, we should have been, our foreign policy should not have been laying all eggs in one basket and suffering right now. Okay, so this rationale for indirect talks, or rather no talks or minimum talks, has not worked with Taliban. We should have been talking, and we have whatever little rationale we had. None of the rationale worked right now, and now we are left with nothing to defend. Okay, we are left out completely. And that is the scenario as far as India is concerned, and Pakistan definitely is on an advantageous position. So, we have many dangers. Now, Pakistan's ascendancy, or rather Pakistan's increased role, will have definite impact. But yes, there is one possibility. Till now, Pakistan's policy was that the Afghan Taliban is good, and that Tehreek-e-Taliban, Pakistan, there is a Taliban version called Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, that is bad, because according to Pakistan. Okay. Now, but earlier, originally when Taliban was created, there was only one Taliban. That is, we were fighting in Afghanistan. But between around 2007 onwards, this Tehreek-e-Taliban emerged. A different version, a branch or a different version of Taliban emerged in Pakistan. Now, Pakistani forces were fighting against Tehreek-e-Taliban and they want to destroy them, but they wanted to protect the Afghan Taliban, which is considered to be good for Pakistan. Now, these differences will emerge in future. Now, what I am trying to say that it may not be that easy for Pakistan. Now, what is right now good may not be good for Pakistan after some time because the differences will resurface. The differences will resurface and there will be problems. And we cannot rule out the problems between Taliban and Pakistan in future. So, we have lost the opportunity. That is the only thing I would like to say. Japan being close to US helped them a lot even after they got bombed and all things changed. Yeah, India is not having, so India is not having enough friends right now. That is unfortunate. So, China and Russia will approve Taliban's rule. Yes, that is what I am telling you because they are in the process of approving because, Russia was talking with Taliban since 2018. Okay, and they were aware that this is going to happen. So, China will approve, Russia will approve, and there will be problems for India because of that. Okay, so, now, just what went wrong in Afghanistan, a couple of points I would like to say. What was the sudden, why this sudden defeat of Afghan forces? See, even though Joe Biden has said that, their aim was not to, reshape the society. But George Bush has very clearly said right from the beginning that they would like to create a democratic Afghanistan. Okay. So their aim, when Americans came, what was their aim? To capture Osama, to remove Taliban, because they were supporting Osama. So any supporters of terrorism should be removed. And also, they wanted to subsequently they even wanted to destroy the poppy cultivation in Afghanistan. See, over a period of time, they had many aims. Why? Because this poppy and opium ultimately reaches US. So they want to destroy the source itself, poppy cultivation in Afghanistan. And they also wanted to reshape the society, Afghan society. Reshape the Afghan society. So it is very clear right from the beginning they wanted, even though the US President refused to accept all these things. They say there is no such role, but it was. There were. Okay. So, this is the aim in which US reached Afghanistan. Right. So, then, right now what has happened is, as I told you, right from President Obama's time, they have declared, in 2011 itself, President Obama declared that US would like to withdraw on a time-bound manner. Okay. So, they kept a deadline of 2014. So, now, even though they did not withdraw in 2014, now it is 2021, they finally withdrew. See, now I will say this is the biggest mistake of US. The biggest mistake. Because in a fight like this, an ideological war, you are fighting against an invisible enemy, or you are fighting against this terrorism, you cannot keep a deadline. So what has happened is the moment they declared a deadline, Taliban was just buying time. Taliban knew that today or tomorrow the US will withdraw. Then we will easily capture. This is what precisely happened right now. Rather than directly fighting with the US, Taliban kept on energizing themselves, kept on increasing their strength, waiting for a day to capture power, because the US already has declared. See, they should not have declared any timeline. The US should have said that we will not go. They should have said that we will not go until we are able to remove the entire Taliban, or until we remove all terrorism or orthodoxy. Something like that they should have been officially declaring. So this announcement by Obama in 2011 that they will withdraw by 2014 was one of the biggest mistakes of US in Afghanistan, because they have given a timeline for Taliban to wait. They said they have to just wait now. They will anyway go. They waited, and they got the chance to capture. So number one, I will say, is that announcement by the president. And this second point I would like to say is that when Joe Biden finally declared that they are withdrawing by September 1st, by September 1st, 2021, they not only declared that they are withdrawing, they also stopped paying salary and all, paying money to Afghan soldiers. Many of these Afghan soldiers were paid by the Americans. They stopped paying because they are going, so they stopped paying. They even stopped giving air support. Earlier, for any operation against Taliban, Americans used to give air support. The Air Force support used to be given. They stopped giving air support also. They even stopped giving intelligence. The earlier Americans were supporting with intelligence. American intelligence were stopped. And even though they trained the army, they created a dependent army. Okay, they created an army which is dependent on US, on intelligence, on air support, on various activities, even on salary. When the Americans stopped, see, this is where Americans they might have deliberately done it. But in the process, what has happened? Suddenly, this Afghan army, Afghan National Army, ANA, started crumbling. Because if soldiers are not paid salary, if their life support is stopped, if their intelligence gathering has stopped, if air support is not, air power support, if it is not there, they found it. So, they have left, and then weak leadership from Kabul. Weak leadership from Kabul. They were giving in fact, the leadership, the message from Kabul was that don't resist, don't fight unnecessarily, you will lose, something like that. The weak leadership did not encourage the fighters, did not encourage the army. American support stopped, Americans are going. So they lost their moral high in the first place. Then the weak leadership from Kabul, they did not even ask them to fight. Because this Ghani was never a fighter. See, Ashraf Ghani, he never fought a war. He was only an intellectual. He was a World Bank official when he was subsequently made as the president. Like even Karzai. Karzai never fought a war. Okay. Karzai, he was not a Mujahideen or anybody. Karzai was an intellectual. Karzai was studying in Shimla University. He had his post-graduation from India. Then he did his doctorate. So he was an intellectual. But still, Karzai had some fighting spirit, the former president. But this Ashraf Ghani, he had no experience of any fighting. When this situation came, Ashraf Ghani simply crumbled. And he felt that, "Kaun fight karega? Main to nahi karunga, main nahi marunga." If you cannot die, you lose. So there is no leadership from Kabul, and then American support stopped suddenly. And this has led to a scenario where this ANA, Afghan National Army, did not fight. And Talibanis were given a walkover. A walkover for Taliban. See, there is no major bloodshed in any of the cities because they did not resist in the first place. And even many of the warlords, see, Afghanistan, see, right from the beginning, see, Afghan economy, don't forget, Afghan economy is fully dependent on the money from opium trade. Afghan main economy is opium. It's an illegal trade. There is no official economy, only unofficial economy, illegal trade. And these warlords, each province, if you go to Afghanistan, you will find that every province, every region is occupied by small regions are ruled by some sort of warlords. These warlords, when Talibanis came, when Afghan army refused to fight, these warlords switched allegiance to Taliban because their main concern is to protect their trade, their business. They are not bothered whether Taliban is in power in Kabul or, the Ashraf Ghani is in power in Kabul. That isn't, for them, their main danda is opium trade. Their trade should not be affected. These warlords shifted or switched their allegiance to Taliban. They are the local militia. They want their business to be running properly. They shifted their allegiance to Taliban. Why? When the Afghan National Army started giving up. They felt that, why should we take trouble? So, the lack of motivation of Afghan National Army, then the warlords switching their allegiance to Taliban, and the US military completely abandoning the support to the Afghan National Army. And also, there used to be corruption. See, somebody has also written also in the saying that because of corruption. See, corruption is a South Asia. हमारा fundamental right है corruption, है ना? अगर if without corruption can you survive even one day? हमें लगेगी हाथ कट गया type ना. So we are Afghanistanis are also South Asians. So corruption is there, no doubt. Manipulation. Corruption. So even some people say even the 4 to 5 or other 3 to 4 lakh soldiers which they were talking, many of them were absentee soldiers. Okay, like Chara Gotala. Okay, the fodder scam. Fodder scam में क्या है? Fodder scam में no fodder was made, no fodder was transported, and no fodder was eaten by cow, but still everything was on paper. Fodder was made, fodder was transported, fodder was distributed, the cows ate the fodder, and cows gave dung, cow dung also. Finally, cow dung was sold, everything on paper. Okay, same thing now another corruption allegation Bihar regarding the rice procurement. Rice is procured, rice is distributed to the PDS system distributed it to the public, but only on paper, nothing has actually happened. The same thing here also, many of these soldiers, in some of the provinces, some of the soldiers, up to 30 to 50% of soldiers were absentee soldiers. Why? Because they were originally there, no such soldier. On paper, so salary, allowances, everything is taken by the commanders. So even that was ghost soldiers or absentee soldiers. Okay, ghost soldiers. Somebody is suggesting me the right word is ghost soldiers. Yes. So corruption was also there. Some of them, these soldiers were not there actually. Then most importantly, the missing leadership. See, Ghani is not a fighter. Ghani is not a warlord. Ghani never fought any war. And he had no experience of fighting the war also. So all these things have ultimately led to a scenario whereby the Afghan army, even though they were fully trained, they could have easily fought even 3 lakh soldiers, even 2 lakh soldiers if they are there. They could have easily fought against the Taliban, but unfortunately, they could not. So all these things led to the defeat of the Afghan National Army, and Taliban captured power. So time only will tell what will happen, how things will evolve, because now the approach of China, Russia, even Pakistan, of course, they were always together with Taliban, but what will be the approach of China and Russia will be a major factor. In every likelihood, they will be recognizing Taliban, and if these countries recognize Taliban, it will not be that easy for us to oppose and all. So was it possible that a child organization of Pakistan would have good relations with India? After all, they cheated the US post-Doha agreement. See, now, we are not talking about good relation. Now, I think, from Lucknow, when you're asking this question, I think you mistook me. I said we should talk to Taliban. Talking to Taliban does not mean that you accept what Taliban is saying or you accept that we agree with what Pakistan is in Taliban. No. Talking is diplomacy. In diplomacy, when we say talk to Taliban, meaning, there is a, in a mechanism whereby you agree to disagree. Okay, in diplomacy, there is a philosophy called agree to disagree. Okay, what is that? Both sat and talked. You said your point, I said my point. You did not accept my point, and I did not accept your point. Finally, at the end of the talks, handshake and walk out, saying that I cannot agree with you. You also said I cannot also agree, but we talked. So this kind of a scenario where we talk and when we disagree, we say I agreed to disagree. We agreed to disagree. Meaning there is a common ground. What is the common ground? Common ground is I cannot agree. Even that is an achievement in diplomacy. So we could have been achieving that. Okay. Unfortunately, that also did not happen. So whether the Afghan issue will be discussed in UN Security Council, there is no use. Even if it is discussed, what will happen? The US will use their veto if it is against them, or if it is slightly against the Taliban, immediately our great China and Russia will use their veto. So nothing will happen in the UN Security Council. Okay, and nothing much is expected of the Security Council also. There were just 30,000 commando forces putting up fight against Taliban. Yes, see, we don't require too many people if they want to fight. Okay, so anyway, so does it mean that China and Russia approve Taliban rule? Yes, in every likelihood, it is going to be approved. That is the point, that's what I was saying. So that is the scenario. So let us wait and watch. Let us, there is no point in discussing too much. After some days, you will say, sir, Sara change ho gaya. Aisa ho gaya, waisa ho gaya. Okay, it may happen, then we will discuss again. So please read. This is what happened till now. So we will have to wait and watch how things will evolve in Afghanistan.